Thanks so much for joining us for Beyond Amazon Alternatives for Indie Authors. We will have wonderful panelists speaking to a number of questions and discussion points around all things outside of Amazon and big box stores for indie and small pub authors. I want to welcome you all and welcome our wonderful panelists. If you all would please introduce yourselves.
My name is Sylvester Barzey. I am a horror author. I've been writing and publishing since 2017.
Hi, I'm Dario Aguilar Peregrina. I'm a Mexican author. I'm pretty great to be here again in writehive.bsky.social.
Hi, my name is Malady. I am a writer in the speculative fiction. I do a lot with romance as well and mystery in that. And I've been a moderator for Write Hive for several years, and I'm excited to be doing my first panel on this side.
Awesome. Thank you each for being here. Let's go ahead and just dive in. Sylvester, I'm going to frame the first question for you. Just kind of introducing this topic, right? I'm sure a lot of folks in this historical moment are thinking about alternatives to Amazon. What challenges have you experienced as an indie author, and how is Amazon connected to that?
I feel like the indie author space has trained their audience, like especially when it comes to prices and things. Like when you look at indie authors, there's a lot of 99-cent books and there's a lot of bundles with like 10 books for 99 cents. And then when you look at traditional authors, they have an ebook for like 11.99. So it's just we've I feel like we've put ourselves in this corner where we're already making less from Amazon due to royalties, and then we're undercutting ourselves and the value of our books even more. And at first I had a mindset where I was just like, oh, I want my book out there. I want people to be able to afford it and things like that. And I totally understand that. But then when you look at different aspects of the industry and the community, like when you go to like Book Talk and things and you see Book Talk and you see somebody buying like a $50 special edition, I can't really justify why I have to keep all my books at 99 cents. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. But Amazon as a whole pretty much has shaped the indie realm. Like Kindle Unlimited is probably like the biggest helper and the biggest enemy of indie authors all at the same time because like when you're in Kindle Unlimited, you can get all these readers, but you're not really making too much from the page reads. And then if you're an author who wants to be like, well, I'm going to do it myself, then everybody's going to be like, you're trying to rob me because you're not in Kindle Unlimited. How do I know you're going to not take my credit card number or something? I don't know. So it's just we've trained the market, and I feel like we've trained it poorly. So that's one of my big things about being an indie author.
Yeah, and Kay, Dario, I would love for y'all to let's just do this kind of round robin for this initial question. What are y'all's thoughts?
Well, on my case, Alma, Sylvester K. Okay, challenges as an indie author. Well, here in Mexico, it's a little bit difficult because the publishing companies always want faces that are very known to all Latino people. Because not only are we selling our books to the Mexican people, if not to all Latin America. So this is a challenge because they want you to be like a celebrity, a YouTuber or else to send your books. In my case, even though I have won awards in the industry publishing, it has been a challenge because okay, you have won your awards, you are a great young talent, but kids, you need to do more. You need to do more acting. In this case, I'm also an actor. Also, you need to improve your image, become a celebrity. So it's difficult. It's difficult. And the other part of Amazon, as says, that part is very complicated because Amazon sometimes gives you good royalties and sometimes they don't give you anything. And it's complicated because if you want to earn a life as a writer, it's very difficult. So in my case, I have also a part-time job because I need to also to eat. But I think the good part of Amazon is that from 2019, it was the first time I published in that platform. It was great because I knew other authors, and these kind of spaces like writehive.com or for example, these open mic sites that we have with other authors really open us a lot of possibilities because we knew other people like us that were trying to break in the industry publishing. So it's great. So those are my opinions, but I think you have other ones. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll jump in then too. So I think both Dario and Sylvester have commented on one thing for sure is training it and it's finding readers. That's the biggest challenge for indie authors, as I see it, is finding readers. And where are a lot of the readers? Not all of them. A lot of the readers are on Amazon, and so it's somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy. We as indie authors want to find readers. Where can we find them? At Amazon. Well, now that's where the authors are too, so more readers are going there. And so it's the stranglehold that Amazon has that and as we'll go through this talk, you'll hear more. I mean, I'm in Kindle Unlimited. But because we have this stranglehold, this is the issue. Certainly, Amazon is not necessarily a monopoly, not legally, but pretty darn close. You know, we have some alternatives, but none of them really hit what's hit the popularity that Amazon does. And so, you know, want to find readers. That's where typically people start. And I think Sylvester commented on this too. There's a trust aspect to Amazon as well, you know, versus, hey, come to my website. Yes, I promise I'm using Square, I'm using Squarespace, whatever it is. Give me your credit card number. Well, okay, who are you, person? Whereas Amazon has that sort of might behind it. You know, most of our websites are technically using Amazon in the back end, right? So that, you know, that's a big issue I'd see, and why we have to have this conversation, because a lot of us can use Amazon, a lot of us don't want to, and there's a lot of conversations right now about the boycotts and whether that's how much that is hurting indie authors, if it is, and whether that sort of should matter. And that's the conversations and why we're having this, I think, today.
Yeah, fantastic. And a little bit of a follow-up, and I'd love to start with you, Kay, on this one. And Dario, Sylvester, if y'all have additional thoughts, please feel free to chime in. But I'm wondering, right, given you're on Kindle Unlimited, I'm picking you out of the group here a little bit, Kay. But right, why are alternative spaces to Amazon important to you? Whether it's ethical, right, in terms of like the boycotts, or right, why does it matter, right? If you're finding readers on Kindle Unlimited KU, why do you seek other spaces?
Well, a big part, I think, and I could be wrong, but one of the reasons why I'm an indie author versus ever trying to go, you know, I queried for a little bit and said, nah, never mind. Part of it is that control aspect. And so when we're with Amazon, we have no control. Amazon decides, you know, what categories we can use. They decide our royalties. The amount of author groups I'm in where someone will post and say, oh my God, Amazon just canceled my account for XYZ and I don't know why. That we need to have those alternatives in case both ethically, if we decide, you know what, F Amazon, we're not dealing with them anymore. The readers aren't there anymore because we're boycotting. And then three, the control of, I don't have control over my own business when I am solely relying on Amazon. And so, yes, I am in Kindle Unlimited, but a big part, and I think this will come up in some of the later questions. I'm looking for alternatives because we need to have alternatives. It's the whole idea, don't put all your eggs in one basket. A lot of people can do well with that, but I'm a lawyer in my day job. Risk is my game, is trying to find, you know, look at risk and limit risk for my clients. And so I'm doing that for myself too. How can I limit the risk that something could go wrong? And all of a sudden, I don't have a mechanism to get to readers anymore because Amazon will close my account or something.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a trust thing when it comes to Amazon. Definitely, possibly for me, I have seen a lot of people get their accounts shut down. Like in the horror space, there's like extreme horror, and sometimes they just cut that out, and then in romance. They have dark romance, and sometimes they get their things shut down. So it's hard to be on one path and you build up this whole fan base, and then they just take everything from you. And then Amazon doesn't really have a good track record. Like the way they've done the KDP royalties and how they used to be good and now they're just going down. Then they've cut what our print royalties down to 50%. And before then, there's a whole bunch of projects that Amazon has had and just closed down. So, like, we had Kendall Worlds that went away, we had Kendall Vella that went away. So, it's just kind of, for me, it's always in the back of my mind, like, what if they just wake up one day and they'll be like, we don't need this anymore, or we're going to take all these books we have of yours now and just push them into AI. We don't need you anymore. So it's always in the back of my mind to not put everything in one basket because my mom's always told me that. So yeah, the other places I've been at, they definitely don't generate as much as Amazon does. Even though I'm wide, Amazon still generates a lot of money for me. But at least I know if Amazon decides to shut down my account, I still have my own website. I still have these other people that I can work with. So yeah.
Well, on my part, I agree with Kay and Sylvester. And Kay, you say that you are also a lawyer. I'm also a lawyer too in real life. So
I love it.
it's also it's a part. It's an important part because here in
Mhm.
Mexico we have an institute that protects our rights as an author, and it's very important to you to register your book, and later you can sell your book. No, on my alternatives, well, as Sylvester said, what if someday Amazon decides to shut down my books because they are maybe dangerous? I don't know. The alternative I have is, thankfully, I always print physical copies of my books, and there are many opportunities in local book fairs here in Mexico City. And I usually go to there because sometimes the same people of the government that are creating these events invite young artists or many others to promote their works. So in my case, I have been grateful because they always invite me to these events and I bring these copies, and it's very nice to see children, families, or many other people that said, okay, I read your book in Amazon and now you are here. And honestly, we prefer having the physical copy because honestly, Alma, okay, Sylvester, I stopped selling physical copies in Amazon because they always had bad quality. So I decided to partner with a good neighbor I had in my former hometown, Apatlaco, who created these physical copies that are very, very beautiful. And I decided to sell them in the book fair. So it's a great alternative. And for those who want to promote their work, it's really great because you connect with the people immediately and people say, okay, you are the author, finally have met you, and let's chat about a little bit about your work. So it's an alternative, and I think it's very important.
No, thank you for that, Dario. And I think that's a fantastic segue into my next question, actually. So, hearkening a little bit to what Kay was saying in terms of the ethics, and then Dario, right, the balance that you have found in Ciudad de Mexico around printing physical copies that are available at these events and then maybe selling digital copies on Amazon and other platforms. I'm wondering how writers can maintain a good balance between visibility, right, which is important for finding readers, and the wide distribution once you find those readers, and making selling choices that align with their values. So, kind of harkening back to some of the comments both of you were making, Dario, if you would take first shot at that, I would love it.
Yes, in my case, well, how to balance these things? Well, in my case, all my books have this common topic about a Latin guy, a Latin girl trying to break in an adventure or having other things, no? And the marketing, well, the marketing part is very important because, okay, I want to sell my story like it is. For example, with the Hurricanes 2007 saga, it's a sapphic story, and I decided to promote it like that because in the publishing industry in Mexico, they told me, okay, this is a great action story. You are mixing LGBT themes with this movies like The Day After Tomorrow and Logan and superhero things, but we don't think this story could work with other people. I mean, they have their own opinions on that. And I decided, okay, well, thank you. I don't agree with your opinion on that part. I want to promote my story because I want to be real to my story. My story is about this. I don't want you to change everything. The other part, for example, with Latin dancing, in this case, Latin dancing is a musical story about an Afro-Mexican girl who tries to become a superstar in the Latin America music industry. And the industry publishing again told me, okay, this is a nice story, kind of like High School Musical with Cam Rock and Sword Art Online, but okay, you need to sell that this book is not only for families, it's for also for teens. And I told them, no, it's for everybody. It's for everybody, not only for one group. It's for everybody. So this is a part that is very complicated to sometimes talk with these kind of people that they told you how your story should be to the people when they don't realize your story is more than that. So I think it's an important part. And finally, Sylvester and okay and Alma, my selling choices. Okay, my selling choices, it's again, I try to connect with the people in this book first and hear their opinion. And also I have other people in my back that are very good friends, other writers that tell me, okay, this story is really great. Why why you should sell this? Because it's about our identity, it's about our culture. So that is my opinion in my vision of how I should sell my books. It's only about true of my passion of my work, and not anyone and not let anyone to say, okay, this story is not going to work. No, let's give it a chance. So let's see if this story can work. That's my opinion, Alma, okay, and Sylvester.
I guess with me and my thought process about the your visibility and your distribution, um, to pick on Amazon again. Like everybody is on Amazon and they buy your things and that's the most likely where you're gonna make your money. But you don't really have a connection. Like you don't know who bought your book. You hope that they might sign up for your newsletter and whatnot. But when you distribute through other channels, especially your own website, I know exactly who bought my book. I know where it goes. Like last year, everyone that bought paperback books, I sent them like Halloween, what's it, cards saying happy Halloween to them and stuff. So that's things that I can't do when I'm dealing with like Amazon or when I give up a lot of my power basically. Like my main reason for leaving Amazon was when I was in KU, they have this kind of like stipulation where it's like, oh, like if 10% of your book's out there, then we might yank it, or you're breaking our rules and whatnot. And I wanted to just have more, like I did a lot of blogging, so I wanted to give people access to my books and to read more and to just do a lot of things that I felt like I was handcuffed from doing when I was dealing with Amazon. And I felt like that would help me build my visibility more. Like reading my book on TikTok. Like there's sometimes that could be an issue with Amazon and things like that. So there were so many different avenues that were starting to open up and so many different new ways of marketing that I just felt like I can't just be locked down to them. And then plus like yeah, it's just it's keeping yourself with one person, if well, not one person, one company. Keeping yourself with one company is just kind of, especially in this day and age, it's not very great because like everybody's boycotting everything. Like Target's being boycotted, and like so if Amazon's being boycotted and like especially okay, so with the Amazon boycott, there's something on social media where people are saying they want to boycott Amazon, and then we have authors who are saying you shouldn't do that because it hurts indie authors. I don't feel like I should tell you how to voice your concerns about a company. I feel like we should be able to give you another avenue. If you can't find me on Amazon, maybe I have paperbacks. If you can't find me on Amazon, maybe meet me at this convention, or in my case, you can just go to my website. So like I can't predict what everyone's gonna do, so I gotta at least control what I'm gonna do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you both for that. That's a fantastic segue. Kay, I'm going to point this next one at you,
Yeah.
actually, which is to segue us into, and you shared a little bit, I picked on you earlier, sorry, for, right, like for participating in Amazon and some of its channels for indie authors. And so let's start talking about those alternatives, right? I think that's a fantastic segue. Um, right? Like, what are the alternatives that you all are using? Sylvester mentioned a website, right? Dario mentioned these book fairs. So, okay, I'd love to hear about what alternatives you are using and why, right? Like, what is most
Yeah.
important to you there, whether it's the ethical piece or, right, that ownership piece, that risk piece that you were speaking to before. And as sort of a second part to that question, why you choose those particular channels to reach readers and other potential audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, just to I think to segue into that, so the conversation that we're really having on that balance between, you know, making choices and whatnot. I really liked how Sylvester put it a minute ago, is, you know, giving people those options. You know, I think people may disagree with me on this, but there's absolutely this idea of there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Okay, true. I would argue true, but we still have to make we have to make our own choices under that. And so for me, that means you know, I live in Oklahoma. Um, I have not stepped foot in Hobby Lobby since I've been able to drive myself. I mean, you know, those are choices that you make. And so it's going to, you have to make those choices. And so, as I've said, I've made that choice. I've made my own personal choice to have my books in KU, and we may get into why later. I'm not sure if that's a later question, but they are in there. But certainly, as Sylvester says, we need to have other options. And so, I'm always looking for readers. I'm looking for community. This is how to me, we build community. We find readers by building community. And so, as Dario said, I go to book fairs. I think book fairs are great. Book signings, sometimes those can be financially difficult, depending, you know. Well, goodness, didn't we all hear about the A Million Lives, I think is what it was called. You know, that went very poorly and it cost people a lot of money. Some people might not even have the money to go to those signings. And so it's how do we build community as well? And we build community by, in addition to doing these book fairs, I'd say reaching out. I have to be an extrovert for work. I'm an introvert as a person. And so that does involve putting yourself out there. And I mentioned that I'm an introvert because I know that sometimes it sucks. You know, we don't like to talk to people, that sort of thing. Sending emails, sending DMs, that sort of thing. Talking with other businesses, with indie bookstores, things like that. Finding alternatives to get out there and just get your name out there. In addition, I'd say getting into libraries is good. Again, as someone in KU, I will not be in Overdrive. I will not be in Libby or Hoopla because of that. I have made that choice, but that is absolutely an option if you can get into those with ebooks. Certainly, you can do it with print books as well. Let's see what else. I'm trying to think of other options as well. I do have a website too. You know, I also, if there is something out there, I either have done it or have read about it. Because again, the idea is no ethical consumption under capitalism. We need to give people choices. As Sylvester said, we need to give people choices, and so I'm doing that as well. Because again, it's the ownership thing I mentioned. It's the control issue, but it's also someone could decide the entire, you know, paranormal mystery, which I write, the entire paranormal mystery audience could say, you know what, screw Amazon, we're never dealing with them again. Well, where are those readers going to go? Well, I want them to have an option to find me elsewhere. And so, getting into libraries, meeting with businesses, going not just to book fairs, but other fairs. My partner is an artist, and we have for the last 10 years we do fairs for him. And so I have that background where we have done that for 10 years. Now I know how to do it for myself, and sell yourself, find that community. Even authors, we read a lot too. Being in author groups, we find our community there. The amount of authors that I have met that have then later come to me and said, "Hey, I'm doing XYZ. Would you like to come as well?" Again, it's building these relationships, building this community, and that's how, to me, you build readership outside of Amazon, with the caveat that I've got Amazon too, just in case.
Yeah, and before Sylvester or Dario pipe in here, Kay, would you speak very briefly to why you do choose to be part of Kindle Unlimited?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big reason why is the market for this, for what I write. Since I write paranormal mystery, some of those big reader engagement genres, they're in Kindle Unlimited. It's someone who is going to vacuum up an entire mystery series in a weekend. Well, that's what I write. I write paranormal mystery. I also write romance, and romance is another one where you are getting someone who wants to read the same story 100 different times, the same tropes 100 different times. And so you're going to find them because that is most cost effective for them. And so I know that there are absolutely some genres that probably don't do as well in Kindle Unlimited because the readers aren't there. The readers are on Amazon, certainly, some of them, but they're not in Kindle Unlimited. But definitely mystery, romance, fantasy romance, which is a lot of what I write too. That's where I can find them best. If that changes, then maybe I'll go out of Kindle Unlimited, start looking at Kobo, some other things. But right now, that's where they are. I mean, every day someone is reading my mystery series every day, and I don't know that I'd get that elsewhere.
Thank you, Kay. Sylvester, Dario, do either of you want to speak to some of the alternative channels that you use, why you may or may not choose to use Kindle Unlimited or any other Amazon channels?
So I am amazing at giving advice and not taking it, but there are like tons of channels. I think the biggest one right now is, TikTok, our modern version of QVC. So there's like tons of authors who are just going live and they're just talking about their books. They're sharing it with their community and it's just spreading just because when you scroll, you might bump into it. And I think that is a big aspect at us. The fact that we were told that we need a social media following and that we need to build our brand on social media. And now the social medias that we have been building on are allowing us to sell through them because you can sell through Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. So that helps a lot when it comes to alternatives to Amazon. Then there's just other stores. There's like Barnes and Nobles. There's for real diehard readers, I guess there's Kobo. I've never used Kobo, but I've heard it's good. So like I use Draft Digital to reach all those because if I uploaded and dealt with everything by myself, I'd probably just lose it. But so I try all those. I definitely do events, or I used to do events, and those, for me, those are great to get to know readers and to meet readers and build my newsletters and stuff. But sometimes I felt like I put more into it than I was getting. So I put that on a pause for a little bit because it's already hard spending a lot of money in pursuing indie writing. There's so many different avenues that you can take, but you're not too sure about, like Facebook ads, Amazon ads. Like you have to learn a lot and you have to try a lot, and not everything's going to work for everybody. So yeah, I definitely just think there are tons of alternatives to Amazon and that we should dabble in them and find what works for us.
Well, in my part, I agree completely with Sylvester. Honestly, TikTok has been a really great alternative because on my case, I normally put summaries of my books, like putting music and everything. So people are kind of like seeing a short movie a short film so they can invest in the story. Recently, I put a mini trailer for one of my upcoming books about law. It's going to be called Relationships of the Law. It's going to be a rom-com, a mix like Nick and Nora Infinite Playlist mixed with Golden Time anime. It's an anime and other romantic movies, no? And I wanted to show people how this story can be fun, but also teaching you law. So people in TikTok told me, okay, this is really great. How did you get this idea? How did you get the soundtrack? It's because all my music, it's because of my ideas. And as Sylvester says, this is a great alternative so people can say, okay, this story now has potential because one of the common things, and I don't know if anyone else has this challenge, has these challenges, because people here in Mexico, at least with the young people, with others, tells me, okay, your book is great, but it's too much text. Where is the images? Where is how can I see something physical that I say, okay, this is going to be a story, no? So I normally search in Pixabay, Pexels, those free images pages that you can download images, and I paste them and tell you, okay, this is going to be the story. Please, or the music. This music represents this part of the story. So people are getting invested in the story, and they told me, okay, this is great. So this is a really great alternative. And also, I used to work with Wattpad because one of the writers that I really admire, it's Beth Rickles, because she created the Kissing Booth, and even though the movie, it's honestly for me very bad. I respect Beth because she was a teenager when she wrote these books in Wattpad, and she said, "Okay, I don't care. I'm going to write a really great rom-com story." Again, I don't agree with many choices of the book and the adaptation, but at the end it worked. So I normally think about that and say, "Okay, if this girl got it, and I'm doing this thing that I'm also passionate, why not?" So people are going to connect with the story in some way and are going to tell me, okay, your story was really great or really bad. So I don't care. Honestly, I'm excited on hearing the opinion on the people when you do these kind of videos or things, and people get excited. I really love it.
Yeah, that reminds me of one thing I'm hearing a lot of people doing is YouTube as well. So not just YouTube Shorts, but like either reading your book out loud onto YouTube. Obviously, that book can't be something in KU, but I know some people that is what they do. They write short stories and then they read them, or I think some of them use AI, which I don't personally agree with, but that's a good option, I think, as well. As you know, that's something I never thought about before that I thought was neat, and it's the telling the stories. And so, you know, Wattpad you mentioned. I know a lot of people do Patreon too. You know, there's we find most of our readers on. I would say a lot of the readers are on Amazon, but there are other places too. And one thing I know, we're going to move on. One thing I'll note. Obviously, I am in KU. That was the beginning of this question. But my printing is through Ingram. I know you can do both, and I've thought about that. But for whatever reason, when I first started and I was reading into it, I preferred having my print come through Ingram because I wanted to get into bookstores, and that has helped. Absolutely, it makes that option available. So on Amazon, what it means is if you buy a print book from me on Amazon, it's going to take longer because Amazon's not printing it. But that has opened the world to me as well, to different bookstores. And even though I don't have the high percentage discount that bookstores want, they'll still find it. They will still get it. You find a reader who wants your book. They maybe not going to buy from you. Maybe they're not in your country. They'll ask their bookstore, and if you're on Ingram, their bookstore can buy it for them and get them. And I mean, that's another alternative that's outside of the Amazon world, is using Ingram through Bookshop or whatnot.
Awesome. I love hearing about this, and I'm thinking about myself as a reader and sort of how I fall into all of these alternatives. I recently ordered a book directly from an author on TikTok, actually, because it was like, that sounds right up my alley. So obviously, right, these alternatives, although they're a little bit different, they might take a different kind of work. I don't want to say more work, but right. you're able to engage in a very different way to kind of what Sylvester originally was speaking to, and that ability to connect directly with readers. So I love this conversation. Y'all are giving me even more ideas of how to find my favorite authors or next favorite author, I guess. So I want to shift gears sort of kind of a little bit. And I'm going to point this next question at you, Sylvester. But I'm wondering how, and you spoke to this a little bit earlier. So I guess I'm hearkening back to, right, you're sending Halloween cards to your readers since you're a horror writer, right? That makes perfect sense to me as a horror lover. But how are you keeping them engaged with your writing and with other content that you're coming out with? And it sounds like, right, if you would speak a little bit more broadly to that, it also sounds like you're feeling more engaged with your readers as a result of that. So if you could speak to that, I would love that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So although there are a lot of avenues, my strength obviously is writing. So I mostly focus on my newsletter. I focus on building my newsletter. I interact with my readers probably like 3 times a month. And it's just different things. Sometimes they'll be based around my book and the universe. Sometimes it's just strictly about horror, talking about Sinners, talking about Final Destination. That's kind of what my social media will be about. And I just go where my readers are or where horror fans are. My That's my umbrella. I just try and stay where horror people are. I'll do horror podcast, YouTube channels, um, what is it, newsletter swaps, and things like that. And mostly I engage a lot with my readers through Instagram and my newsletters. I'll have people who will email me directly after reading the newsletter, or they'll just leave comments and they'll just talk about it. But yeah, I've gotten a lot of good discussions and I've gotten to know people more because sometimes writing is definitely feels like it's kind of just you and you're just kind of like in this bubble, and it's great to see how it impacts somebody or to just speak with them and get some ideas. Like some people will come to me like, you know what Catherine should do in the next book? And I'm just like, oh, what should she do? So yeah, I love just getting to know my readers. I've built like a Facebook group for them. Not the greatest at it, but it's there. So yeah, just just because they're readers, but they're people and people have tons of different interests. Like I've found readers who love my horror books and also enjoy the fact that I talk about wrestling, or who love my horror books and also believe that The Lost Boys was one of the best vampire movies until Sinners. See, we connect. So yeah.
I just want to say I agree on the movie thing for sure.
Yeah.
Need to
I
join.
know.
I need
I'm
to
like,
join your
I need to
newsletter.
subscribe to Sylvester's
Yeah.
newsletter now.
Me too. Thinking the
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
So be ready to see me subscribing to your newsletter.
Okay.
Both of us.
Well, on my case, I agree completely with Sylvester. These trends to connect with your book, with your readers. For example, recently, I'm not a big horror fan, but there are 3 franchises that I really love. One of them is 28 Days Later. That
Yeah.
movie series scared me as a kid in 2009. I was 11 years old watching the first and second movie in the Mexican television and without censorship, so it was very shocking for me. And years later, that was one of the reasons of becoming a writer, because I was really inspired for those movies. And then recently there was this poem of Rudyard Kipling of Boots that was online because of the trailer, and everybody was really excited, no? And in my case, I asked everybody, "Hey, is this poem is in Spanish?" And everybody told me, no, it's not in Spanish. So I decided to adapt the poem to Spanish and decided to upload the poem in TikTok. And suddenly, if you want to check it, it's already have half million views, because I decided to adapt that part because I'm a big fan of that franchise. So that's Sylvester says, these kind of things also can create a space for people that can know your work because, okay, you created this great adaptation of this poem, of this movie I really love. Okay, what else you can offer to me? So this is a great alternative because people know you because, okay, you have similar interests as Sylvester says. For example, wrestling. Also, I'm a big wrestling fan of WWE since I was a kid. So these things, I normally mix it with my works. And people say, okay, this is going to be a really great story because these things I'm really interested. So this is a great alternative, as Sylvester said at Gay also, so people can connect. I wasn't a big fan of rom-com movies years ago, and suddenly I became a big fan because honestly I don't know, I started to loving these movies. Again, sorry for my spam for Nick and Nora Infinite playlist, but I really love this movie. Kat Dennings and Michael Cera were great in that movie. The Mexican dub, the English, the Mexican and the original movie, Mexican dub and or the original movie were great. So honestly, seeing this, and I told myself, okay, I didn't see this movie because this movie premiered when I was a kid. So honestly, finding this gym and now creating being inspired to create a new book for that movie in special. So it's great. So it's another alternative, and I think many people should try to sometimes board in these trends, but also create this trend as your own. Again, I jump in the trend of these 28 days later's poems, but I decided to create on my own. Okay, nobody had else do it in Spanish. I'm going to do it in Spanish. So I really decided that, and people start to connecting. So that is my opinion of this alternative.
Can I add a comment to that, Alma, before we move on? If I could. I think building off of what Sylvester and Dario have just said, not that I want to propose we should be fostering parasocial relationships at all. I'm going to make that as my lawyer disclaimer. No. But for those of us who are not some of the really, really, really big indie authors, part of it is it's the relationship with you, and maybe not with you, again, not parasocial, but it's knowing who you are. They want to read Dario's books because they like him. They like that he likes 28 Days Later. They think that his Rudyard Kipling translation was awesome. They want to read Sylvester because, wow, yeah, I also agree that Sinners was the best pre-Lost Boys, you know. And so I think I have a good friend who a couple years ago quit a very lucrative position to do social media only. And we were talking about that, and one of the things, it's cooking. He does cooking, and he says, "Well, look, hey, it's not so much about the cooking because anybody can cook. I mean, I could turn on my video and I could cook the exact same thing he does, but they're watching because it's him, because of how he does it and what he does." And so, I think again, not avoiding the parasocial argument of it. People are reading us, people are connecting with us because of us. And so, you know, it's they want to read Kay's books because, you know, Kay has, you know, because Kay has similar thoughts on the Lost Boys and things like that. And, you know, we have similar mindset. We both love XYZ, you know. I've always wanted to read Rudyard Kipling in Spanish, and now Dario's giving me that. And so, you know, part of that connection is anybody can write a book and throw it online. And TradPub doesn't necessarily have to deal with this because they have the marketing dollars behind it. But those us indie authors, I think we have to deal with that. Is they want to read your book because they want to know more. They want to read you. They want to read how Kay writes. It's not just anybody. And so, you know, I think that's part of that connection. And as Sylvester mentioned, doing those newsletters, that you're fostering, you're building that community as well. And I think that's can really help a lot and can really, you know, do that and is a way to find readers outside of someone who's just going to be clicking through Amazon, you know, because now you've created a reader, you've created that community. They really want to know what Sylvester's going to say next, kind of thing.
Absolutely. I love this conversation. Y'all are like, I have a whole bunch of thoughts. So I'm keeping my moderator hat on. But y'all are giving me all kinds of things I want to look into now. And including Dario's translation of Rudyard Kipling, as a Spanish speaker, right? Like I got to see Kipling in Spanish now. I never knew I wanted to read Kipling in Spanish, but here we are. Returning a little bit to the logistics piece of this, which feels like a more a boring segue, but right, is important, right, in terms of y'all's livelihoods, whether or not, right, writing is a part-time gig or your full-time gig. I'm wondering if these alternative modes for finding readers, right, whether it's the book fairs or the newsletter or book signings or whatever it might be, right, where you're finding your readers or the TikTok videos and then bringing them to whatever landing page, newsletter, whatever it may be that keeps them engaged with you. Are you finding that you get similar levels of traction with those readers, more levels of traction with those readers, less levels of traction with those readers than Amazon or Kindle Unlimited? Or are you able to achieve the same results or better results without Amazon funnels?
You know, I had some goals for myself early this year to really increase what my royalties on Amazon. And so there are ways that I'm doing that, but honestly, even as someone who is in Kindle Unlimited and who, as I said, where I'm finding my paranormal mystery readers, they're in Amazon. We got so many baskets, right? And so if I take just the Amazon basket, I actually get more elsewhere. But because I'm in bookstores as well, you know, I get royalty checks every month from my local bookstores, from Ingram as well, from the book fairs, all those types of things, the book signings. So me personally, I do better, but again, part of this is going to be genre specific, and I know there are some phenomenal writers, indie only authors in, you know, the fantasy and the sort of romantasy bucket. They're focused almost solely on KU, and that is how they make all of their money. So because I am more of a genre blender than just straight romantasy or just straight paranormal. My paranormal mystery is technically also legal fiction mixed with urban fantasy, so it doesn't even do that. I think some of that's going to be genre specific, and so there are absolutely, you know, some from my romantasy friends. This is how they make their money, is through KU. They are, you know, 5-6 digits every month through KU. I'm not at that point, but I know it's an option, but I don't know that it's necessarily an option for you know, some historical fiction. And maybe it is. Like, I don't write that. I don't know if there's a big audience there, but that's part of the why, you know, again, the baskets thing. And so the if you're in KU, you know this, of course, but you know, page reads, it's like 0.0042 per page read. So it's, you know, you know, fractions of pennies per page read, and so you've got to do a lot with that versus when I'm doing it on my own, I get to set my own prices. So, you know, when I do a book signing or a book fair or what I sell to bookstores, so the option is there to do more. But again, as someone who has some genres that are more KU dependent, I could do way better, you know, in KU, assuming you find those readers.
I think personally for me, where I make a good amount that I wasn't making in Amazon, it's due to signed copies. So it's like since you are indie, it's kind of like, oh, you versus big business. And you kind of build a community of people who want to see you succeed, who want to support you, who want to be like, I bought this book before it became a TV show and things like that. So yeah, I'll get a lot of people who will buy signed copies from my website or from TikTok or Instagram and stuff. And you and I like that because like when you buy a copy from Amazon, yeah, you get the book, but I can write to them directly and be like, just I hope they survive the apocalypse or something, and I can give them different stickers and things like that. So it makes it more personable. I get to put my personality into it more. And I think with Amazon is good for the for the book industry. Like you can buy paperbacks there and you can buy ebooks there and you can get your audio books there. But I think sometimes people get fixed on the ebooks and KU and ebooks, and they forget that you do need to diversify your story as well as your selling channels. Like there are some people who just read strictly through audio. I'm one of those people. I have no audiobooks. I'm gonna work on that, but I am one of those people who I mostly read audiobooks, and if you see me buy a book, it's probably just to put as a trophy on a shelf. But yeah, so I that's pretty much for me. Signed books and just building that community and watching people on social media react.
Well, Sylvester K. Alma, on my case, in this book first, again, uh, how do I get people to get invested in my story? Well, live performances. I normally act the story in some cases because people, again, told me this story is great, but we don't understand many things. Can you explain that? And so I started to do these live performances and creating the voices of all the characters and immersing myself in the story. I enjoyed that because for example, recently we have here in Mexico City the International Children's Book Fair that is one of the biggest of in Latin America, and I honestly got the opportunity to be in one of the on the schedule of the times of this fair, so I decided to give a live performance of my book Codicemex. Codicemex is a story of a kid that receives this mythical stone from the Aztec and Purepecha and Maya mythology, who wants to help another princess from another realm to return home. It's a mix like Black Panther with Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, and Guardians of the Galaxy. So I decided to put this energy of these things I love with my story, and people got excited, and kids started telling me, okay, we really love this kid called Danny. Danny is based of me as a 10-year-old growing on in Apatlaco, Iztapalapa, Mexico City, in the town, no? So these things really created an audience for me, and people started telling me, okay, what other stories can you offer me? So I decided to bring them, okay, there's now Brigade DXT. It's a story about a kid who want to go to the Olympic Games with other friends from around the world. No, it's like Coach Carter we mix with, I don't know if you have seen the movie Goal. That is one of the greatest football movies I have ever seen. It's one of my childhood. The main actor was Mexican, Kuno Becker, so I was a big fan of him. He goes to play to Newcastle United in England, so I was excited. So I decided to put that energy in this book, and people told me, okay, this was a great another story. And with this, many people started connecting with the stories, and this gave me the opportunity to tell them, okay, I want to do more stories, so please just support me. I also working on improving my craft, because honestly, the first book I wrote as a lawyer, Kate, many people told me, okay, this first book seems like a lawsuit to other people. So my style of writing wasn't the best, honestly, in the first two books. And people told me, okay, you have improved in these 6 years, you have started writing. So it's a really great part, because people see your advance in your career and tell, okay, this kid started writing at 20 years old or 21, and now he created these 6 universes. So it's exciting because you offer people different stories, but also you connect with them, and hearing people's Alma, Kay, and Sylvester telling you, I love your story, I really want to see this in the big screen. That is one of my greatest cases of success for me, because if people says, I want to see your story in movies, I think it's a really great honor.
I love I love the passion that you all have for like very different spaces of the indie author world too. It's really fun to see all of you so excited and engaged about each of your kind of parts of that world. Um, this next question, I'm going to actually direct at you, Kay. So I'm bringing it back to you. I'm wondering if, just because there may be authors who are starting out who are watching this panel, right, are trying to figure out how in the heck do I, if I choose to try to step away from Amazon or Kindle Unlimited, how do I go about doing that? And I remember you mentioned libraries, right? Some other spaces. We've all been talking about book fairs, newsletters, social media, right? The ways in which you can do direct sales. And I'm wondering if there are specific tools or platforms that you all use. I know we've been talking about like physical copies of books versus ebooks, but specifically for ebook delivery, I'm wondering if there are specific tools or platforms you use and why you use those. And then I'll have some follow-ups kind of depending on where everybody lands on that question.
Yeah, so for the tools and platforms, BookFunnel is a big one. I know that there are some alternatives, but BookFunnel is what I use. I use that for ARCs and whatnot, since I can't do I can't send out ebooks because I'm in KU. But BookFunnel's good, and honestly, I like that a lot because of their promo section and their author swaps and things like that. It does good with ARCs. I also have my magnet, my reader magnet through there, that I like. For physical copies, as I said, I use Ingram. If you are in a place where you do have a local printer, I check there. There is, just forgotten his last name. His first name's Ben, but he does a lot of stuff on selling in person. And I think he's written some books about selling in person anyways. And he has a relationship with a printer in his town because he happens to live somewhere that does. And that's a lot. I think that's a probably a better alternative than Ingram would be my guess. Certainly there. I have my own website. I decided to do that early on, and I personally use Squarespace. I like that gives me the option to sell as well, and so Squarespace. So I have my store through Squarespace as well. That's a good one. I think that was the question, was tools, right? I don't want to. I could keep going. I mean,
yeah, no, you're great. And actually, I'm gonna point some follow-up questions both at Sylvester and Dario directly, if y'all are good with that. And then if we have additional ideas, would love to hear them. Sylvester, I'm gonna pick on you next. I'm wondering, given sort of how you've found your readers, how you continue to engage with them with social media and the newsletter, have you used either in the past or do you currently use lead magnets or other freebies to build your buyer lists? And maybe you did this way before your series started. I don't know.
Yeah, so I do use lead magnets. I have like a novella for my apocalyptic series that people enjoy. They seem to sign up for it and they'd read it. That's mostly what I try and focus on. I don't do like giveaways or contest things unless it's like really book related. Because one time I did a giveaway that was like Walking Dead related, and you got like a Glenn action figure and stuff, and I got a ton of people who weren't reading, so I had to redo my newsletter. But yeah, I mostly focus on giving them something to read. So I'll have my novella to pull you in, and then I write short stories sometimes for my newsletter. I'm trying to work on like a why choose, or what, when you choose your ending, I don't know, but that thing. Yeah.
Choose
Yeah.
your own adventure.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on that for the newsletter, and it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. But
That takes me back to like goosebumps in my childhood.
yeah. So yeah, things like that. If BookFunnel is definitely my best friend. That's how I sell my ebooks. I used to have Squarespace. I love Squarespace. I thought it was great, but I now I got Shopify, and I do my website through Canva. So so BookFunnel's the number one tool that I think helps me, because there's so many different aspects of BookFunnel, because you can do your arcs, you can do your reader magnets, you can sell directly through your site. Um, I build a lot of landing pages with them. So like if I'm looking for reviewers, I'll go to Facebook groups and I'll be like, oh, I'm looking for reviewers for these 5 books. And then they just go to the link and they can just download whatever book they want to read. And that makes things a lot simpler for that. And then I have some, I have like a list of readers that just get access to whatever I write next. And it'll just be through BookFunnel. They'll just download a new book without having to worry about it. So
Dario, I know that you are in a little bit of a unique situation within this group in that you are based outside of the contiguous United States. So I'm going to direct this next kind of follow-up at you. What challenges have you had, both specific to being located in Mexico, but also in general as an indie author in terms of setting up payments? And I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm curious what your perspective is there.
Yes, in this part of the payments, honestly, it has been a challenge because when I started publishing in Amazon, I really didn't know how to do that part of the taxes, because I remember there is a part in the taxes. I don't know, it's in the settings. So I really got confused at the beginning. So I didn't earn any money in the first, I think, 6 months. So I asked other friends who were in the publishing part in Amazon, and they gave me advice on how to do it. Also, I met other indie authors from other parts, from the United States, England, and other parts, who also gave me advice. So since then, I could earn some money. I'm not making many money, but I'm enjoying this part of again, on publishing your story. And it's not in my part, honestly. Yes, the money is important, because obviously it's really great to see a little bit of more money of your books in Amazon. But I think the more than that, Alma K. Sylvester, is that again, this platform of Amazon gave me the opportunity to publish my work when nobody in the industry here in Mexico or Latin America gave me an opportunity when I was starting. So to 6 years later, that people know your work, and after all that hard work that you made, honestly, it's really, really great. So the payment part, honestly, I have been having a little bit of sometimes questions, because sometimes they change a lot of the rules in Amazon, how you are going to get your money and everything. Uh, but again, I'm going to sound like very optimistic or anything, but seeing your work published and people are really connecting with them, it makes me very happy. More than the money, because again, money is important, but hearing people saying, I love your story, and I honestly want you to do this sequel or anything, it's really great. So honestly, it's been a challenge in that part. But I think with advice from other friends, I have been moving along and not having any more problems. So that's my opinion, Alma.
Thank you all for sharing a little bit about just where you are in your journeys and your challenges as authors, as well as where you're finding joy and success. I love hearing that as a super happy, voracious reader. This is probably going to be kind of our last big question. So let's go ahead and do this kind of round robin. I'll start with Dario, and maybe we'll just go in alphabetical order. So, Kay, you can follow Dario and Sylvester. Good Lord. We will close out with you. Um, what is your advice for folks who want to publish outside of Amazon and are just starting to begin their writing career or their journey? And please include any last thoughts you have, calls to action, shameless self-promotion. Please include those things in sort of your answer to this question.
Okay, Alma. Okay, Sylvester. Again, well, my advice for those who want to start publishing here in outside Amazon or in Amazon, again, it's reach with your friends who are indie authors or other people who have been in this experience, so they can give you more tips or how to publish. Then also, again, in the writing style, well, I think everyone has a story to tell. So in your part, if you think your story is not very good and everything, no, don't listen to that part. Honestly, believe in your story. I remember also when George Lucas created Star Wars in the 70s, many people thought he was crazy creating these crazy names for characters. And at the end, it became a great franchise. Other example, E.L. James created 50 Shades of Grey. She saw Twilight, and she created a fanfic, and at the end, the woman created a really an interesting franchise, and the woman enjoyed the process. Again, it doesn't matter if you believe in your story, it's going to be great. Again, and for on my part on the promoting, well, I'm going to create more sequels of the Hurricanes 207 saga. Again, it's a mix of LGBT themes, sapphic stories, and action like Years of War, Logan, superheroes. I'm going to create more stories of Brigade EXT, again, for my passion for the Olympics, because I also swim a lot. I love swimming, so I'm really great in that part. Codice MX, I'm going to create more sequels because I want to create more about my culture, the pre-Hispanic culture here in Mexico. The Three Wise Young Men is going to continue. The Three Wise Young Men, for those who don't know the story, it's about three teens who met in Mexico City and they realize they are the descendants of the original Three Wise Men. For those who don't know who are the Three Wise Men, it's the Latin American version of Santa Claus, but in this case, we have three, Melchor, Gaspar, and Baltasar. They come from different parts of the world and they bring gifts to the children here in Latin America every January 6th. And also, again, Latin Dancing is going to have a sequel called featuring La Gira Española about the Spanish music and also the Latin American music with video games, because I really love video games like Just Dance and Guitar Hero and Rock Band, also with a mix of Sword Art Online, because I really love that anime. And also, as I told before, I going to publish Relationships of the Law. Relationships of the Law is going to be the story of Angela Dulcinea, a young law student in Mexico City who wants to get in this career in law. So how is she's going to make it? She's going to select one of the branches of the law. There are many branches in the law, as you know, so she's going to meet friends and everything, and maybe a love interest, or maybe she's going to become a really expert in the matter. So it's going to be a trilogy. Again, it's very inspired by Nick and Nora Infinite Playlist, so it's going to be a really great story. And for those, I don't know, Alma, if I can say the social media. Okay, the social media. Okay, you can follow me at Instagram, TikTok, Facebook as Dario Aguilar Peregrina, or also as my nickname that I have from 2005, Hurricane Dario. So it's because it's my nickname, and also I use it for my wrestler in WWE games. So it's really great. So thank you so much again, Alma, Sylvester, and Kate. It was an honor, and also for everyone here in the Right Hive.
Okay, so my advice for publishing outside of Amazon or just starting, I'd say a big one is don't reinvent the wheel. There's so much information out there that you don't need to feel like you're doing it alone. But also, you don't need to do all the things. I think we have talked about how a lot of us are doing a lot of the things. And if you're just starting out and you maybe don't have the spoons, don't worry about it. What matters is getting your book out there. So if that means that you are only on BookFunnel, or you are only looking at book fairs, or you're only doing Amazon, what matters is getting your book out there and at least and starting. You have to get it out there. If it's not published, then we're not even having this conversation. So that would be what it is. Part of that reinvent the wheel is probably more practical. As I said, there is a lot of information out there. And if you find something that works for you, repeat it. It doesn't matter. If you are sending the same email to 40 different bookstores, that's okay. If it works, it works. This is hard enough. So again, don't make it harder on yourself. As for the last thoughts, call to action, all that sort of thing, this book right here, maybe that you're only seeing half of, and you're only seeing half of my picture too, or my name. That's Threaded Secrets. It is a Greek retelling that is Theseus and the Minotaur, but gender bent. So Theseus is actually Thalia, and it is a all female cast except the love interest is male. It's a male female. By the time you guys are seeing this, book 2 of the Harmony Chronicles, which is an urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy romance book, will be out. As I said, I like to genre blend. And right after this is airing will be book 3 of my paranormal mysteries. That's actually paranormal mystery, urban fantasy, and women's fiction mixed with a little legal thriller, all combined into one. This is why I can't do trad, guys. I just can't. But that one will be out too, and you know that one you can absolutely find those on Kindle Unlimited. The rest of them are everywhere you can find books, basically. I am online at kmaladybooks.com. Malady like the ailment. That's what it is. That's why that's what my name is. And my website is kmalady.com. I love to talk books. I love to do this. As I said, I've been a moderator at WriteHive for several years, and it's been so much fun. I love being on this side of it, and I'd love to help. I'd love to create a community with anyone watching too. This is as I said, it's hard enough. Let's not make it harder on ourselves. And I hope we get to chat more and create some relationships out of this group too.
All right. I think the main thing is just do your research, and you're gonna have like FOMO. You're gonna see things like people with their orange tags and people sharing their page reads and stuff, and it's gonna make you doubt what you're doing. But just keep your head down in your lane and keep moving forward. People that are outside of Amazon normally have something that's called what is it, bank over rank. So what you need to worry about is what your income is versus if you were number one in one of these categories. Um, so yeah, I would just focus on that, have fun with it, try a lot of different things, trend wise or just marketing wise. If something comes across and you're like, oh, I'd like to do it, just do it and see what happens. If you fail at it, I guarantee nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna know or care if you made a video and it just flopped. So just have fun with it. Do it. You're doing this for your career. You're doing this for your book. Nobody's gonna fight for your book as much as you. So, you just do that. As far as everything, let's see. You can find me on all social media at sylvesterbarzey.com. I'm most known for my Apocalypse book, the Planet Dead series. You can also wait, is this way? Okay, here we go. Camp Lanier is a YA summer camp slasher based in Lake Lanier, Georgia. That lake where everyone dies, like 20 people a year. And by the time this comes out, I believe it will have an award from the BCALA for fiction. So, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Check out Camp Lanier. Read it on the beach or something, or at a lake if you want.
I'm gonna try not to read it at Lake Lanier, I think, but thank you all so much. This has been a super wonderful conversation to let y'all lead and just sort of get to observe and enjoy. I know in this moment, so many readers, including myself, so many reviewers, writers, book lovers are seeking those alternatives to Amazon, including to find their next indie writer or their next favorite indie writer, I should say. So thank you all for your advice, for your thoughts, for sharing a little bit about your journeys. This has been a fabulous conversation. Thanks so much to our audience for joining us for Beyond Amazon, Alternatives for Indie Authors. Thanks again to our panelists for leading such a great conversation. Thanks also to WriteHive for hosting this fabulous conversation. Keep those questions coming for our panelists in the chat. We're looking forward to answering them.